Today I'm going to film a video answering some common questions that I've gotten. Several of these are most recently. Some of them are just general questions I've gotten throughout my years here on this space of questions moms have for first-time moms, experienced mamas. This is going to be like a mother-focused Q&A question for little ones. Most of these are geared towards the newborn to 1-year-old age. So let's get started. You mentioned your co-sleeping setup in a Q&A, but I would like to know more about everything sleep related. I've been co-sleeping from birth and interested in the next steps. My son struggles to fall asleep at night and often wakes up without going back to sleep at like 2 a.m. That's hard. And wondering if I should do some kind of sleep training. I don't want to night wean or stop co-sleeping until he's at least 1 ideally. Okay, so this has been different for my first child versus my next 3 children. My last 3 children, we've all done co-sleeping and night weaning pretty much the same. My first child, we slept trained because I thought that's what you had to do. There were courses being sold to teach you how to sleep train. I bought some of those courses and followed them strictly and literally listened to my son cry out for nights at a time. It did not go quickly like some parents say. Some parents can let's say their kids can cry it out for a night or 2 and then they're done. That's not how it went with our child. And we followed all the steps. So I just gave that up. We struggled. We were sleep deprived for a while. So with my next 3 children, my second, third, and fourth child, they have all co-slept since birth. And how this works is I just nurse them to sleep. They lay in between my husband and I's pillow, kind of at the top of the bed, so they're not really under the covers. And that's how we sleep. If they wake up during the night, they nurse with me. I lay on the side. I do side lying nursing, and that's it. So when they get to be, like she said, hers is 6 months old. When they get to be 6 months or older, co-sleeping becomes a challenge because they're much more alert and aware, and they know you're there, and they know that they can have constant nursing if they want. Now, my last child, it's been a little different because we did temporarily wean him when I had my surgery. So he was not used to night nursing all the time. I was just getting up, feeding him bottles. So he has been a little easier as far as wanting to nurse nonstop. But my 2 daughters, the second and third child, wanted to nurse all the time. So what we did is I just struggled through those months, like 7, 8, 9 months marks, and just kind of was very sleep deprived because I didn't want to night wean them just yet. And she said she didn't want to night wean until about 1. So I just kind of struggled through those, and they were hard nights of sleep. I just didn't sleep very much then. It was just a hard couple of months. But then I know as they approach 1, I slowly start to wean them off of night nursing sessions. So with my 2 daughters, we haven't done this with my youngest, obviously, my 4th baby. My 2 daughters, at around 8 or 9 months, we start moving them to a room upstairs in a floor bed. And that was harder with my first daughter because she didn't have a sibling with her. But my second daughter, it was a smooth transition because she had a sibling in the room with her. So we would put them in their floor bed at night initially, and anytime they woke up, I would just go upstairs and rock them back to sleep. Me or my husband. My husband did help a lot with this because if I was there, they wanted to obviously nurse. So we just comforted them back to sleep. Now, I know you said you didn't want to do this before 1, so you could wait and do this at age 1 and sort of night wean. I know some mamas will night wean and still co-sleep. That's actually what I hope to do with this current baby because I have realized how much I love co-sleeping, and this current baby is such a sweet cuddler, or at least he still is right now. He's a really good co-sleeper. He's not a flopper all the time. He doesn't want to latch all the time. He'll just kind of nurse and roll away, whereas my 2 daughters wanted to latch literally all night like a pacifier, and that was okay. It just is really difficult for sleeping. But with this one, I would like to night wean at some point where he knows he doesn't nurse at night, but he still co-sleeps with us. So I have not been there yet. But with my 2 daughters, that's what we did. We moved them to an upstairs bedroom. We could obviously have done it in this room behind me. This door you see is another bedroom. It's actually our closet right now, and it will eventually, if we ever get to the renovation, become a master bathroom. So I could easily put the floor bed in there, but we just wanted our kids to share rooms, so we just moved them upstairs. So the daughters, what I did, moved them out of my bed, night weaned them. They were around 9 months. And just rocked them back to sleep, sang them back to sleep, walked them back to sleep. It was a rough few nights. We didn't let them cry it out. We just night weaned them and moved them to another room. You could also do this in your own room. You don't have to move them to another room. That was just what we chose to do. So that's how we did co-sleeping, and we did night weaning. So my advice there is if you want to wait till 1, you kind of just have to have a few rough months there. You just kind of have to push through and know that it's not going to last forever. that those hard nights of sleeping where baby is a lot more wiggly and they want to latch all the time, those don't last forever, and I just kind of try to enjoy them and just push through because I know that they will pass. So that's how we approached co-sleeping and night weaning. We didn't do any form of sleep training with our last 3 children. We just met them where they needed to be met as far as sleeping, and comforted them when they needed to be comforted, no matter if it meant us getting up and down and going up down the stairs several times a night. But it only lasted about a week, probably, with my 2 daughters. And we're approaching that with my youngest right now. He is still in the bed with us currently at 7 months. So we will see if he becomes a more challenging co-sleeper in the next couple of months, and if we do any sort of weaning, night weaning, and I will keep y'all updated on that. From the same follower is, when do your kids typically start solids? My son is almost 7 months old. I haven't started solids yet because I'm scared he's going to get less nutrition, more toxins, etc. Although I know breast milk can contain toxins depending on the mother's milk, and I don't really see many signs of readiness for him to eat. I don't want to give him food before his system is ready. People say food before 1 is just for fun, but I just don't know. In other cultures, I know they start to give babies food before 1. Okay, so we have never waited till our children are 1 to feed them. They've just been ready. And as she said, she didn't see signs of readiness to eat. So I think that is your instinct right there. If you don't see signs of readiness to eat, then your child does not need to be eating. They're perfectly fine getting your breast milk. And even though breast milk can have toxins in it, I know my breast milk was filled with toxins when I had my implants. If you've watched my journey with breast implants, 4 of my children breastfed with implants, not without difficulty, but I know they were getting toxins. But to me, that was a lower toxic load than me feeding them alternative commercial formula. So that was just what I was comfortable with, even though I knew my breast milk was not as clean and as healthy as it could have been had I not had breast implants. I don't have them anymore. We have relactated. It's been wonderful. My child is already on solids as well. So what we do for solids, when I start seeing my children lean into, like, if I usually hold my children while we eat, or my husband holds them, or they're sleeping, but they're usually being held by me when I eat because they're not able to sit in the chair yet because they're 4, 5, 6 months, and I just hold them. When they start leaning in and wanting bites of what I'm eating, or start watching me bring food to my mouth, I start offering them whatever we're eating. Usually this is broth, because we have broth at a lot of meals. And my recent child was at this age during the winter months, and I was eating lots of soups because I was recovering from surgery. So he was getting bites of broth. Now I know broth is very easy for babies to eat and to digest, so that was fine for me. But my children that were maybe not wanting to eat, when we were eating soup, I might give them little bitty bites of mashed ground beef. And then at that point, I know I can start preparing some foods for them. So our children typically start with egg yolks, like very lightly cooked egg yolks. I will like boil an egg for 3 minutes, peel away the white, and have we call it jammy eggs, very soft boiled yolk, and that's what they eat. My children also eat liver pate. We do raw butter. I make butter from our cream. Those are our children's main 3 first foods: broth or whatever I'm eating, little bites of that. Now I don't really consider that what they're eating, because they're literally just getting minuscule bites off my plate just for them to learn the taste and the feeling of food in their mouth. But the 3 first foods I typically feed them are liver pate, raw butter, and egg yolk. And that's from like anywhere, it can be at 4 months. With a couple of my children, my daughters, I think they started those around 4 to 5 months because they were just ready. And then my current baby, he was probably closer to 6 months before he really just now started wanting to eat solids and really interested in what we were eating at the table. And then I started introducing the yolks and the pate. Now I did introduce the yolks around 4 months, because if you don't know my story, I had to supplement him with a homemade option, and it is recommended to include egg yolks in that. This is a Weston A. Price source. I can link that below if you're interested, but egg yolks are highly recommended for children at around 4 months because it's just so good for their brain development, that fat that is in egg yolks. So I do always start that, but if he didn't really show much interest, honestly, at 4 months. I gave him a little bit, but I didn't give it to him every day. I might have gave it to him once or twice a week. But you can just totally listen to your child's readiness on that. I don't think you need to feel pressure to start feeding your child before 1 if you don't think they're ready. I wouldn't stress about the breast milk and the toxins, because with our society today, it's almost impossible to have perfectly clean breast milk. I think we can do our best as mamas to eat well, to take care of our body well, to be aware of what's going on around us, that we're in our environment. But I think that just listening to your baby's cues is perfectly acceptable. Don't feel the pressure to start feeding them before you think they're ready. I think if we will lean into that intuition as mothers, we will start to see those signs of them wanting to eat. My main indicator is they're leaning in, reaching, grabbing for when I'm putting food in my mouth. My youngest baby now started doing chewing motions when we were at the table, and I was like, okay, he's ready to try something. So I just started giving him little tiny bites off my plate, and then we started those 3 more regularly that I talked about: the pate, the liver pate, the eggs, and the raw butter. And then whatever I'm eating. So if we're having like meatloaf, I'll mash up little pieces. If we're having like mashed carrots, I don't give our children a lot of vegetables because I don't see the value in that. I think the main nutrition should come from animal products and fats, high quality fats. The one thing I don't give our children before age 2 is grains and potatoes, because children don't produce the enzyme in their saliva called amylase until about age 2, or it's really when their molars come in, their back molars, but that's closer to age 2. I don't feed them grains, starches until closer to that age so that their body is more able to digest it, because if you didn't know about grains, the digestion for grains starts in our mouth. And then our stomach starts the protein, and then the process goes on from there. I learned this from Sue Becker when I started learning more about whole grains, but babies don't produce amylase in their mouth until they get those molars. So this is close to anywhere between 18 and 24 months. So that's when we hold off grains. We don't do cereals with our babies. I just don't see the nutritional value in that. It's strictly animal proteins, organ meats, and good quality fats. Do you cloth diaper exclusively? I want to start cloth diapering, but it seems intimidating to wash them constantly. Also, what about traveling? We do not cloth diaper exclusively. We do in the day. We do when we're out and about, but if we're traveling on a long vacation or if overnight, we do use disposable. Now, I use the brands Made Of and Healthy Nest because they are a cleaner diaper version. I do love cloth diapering. I have cloth diapering videos. It's fun for me to wash and launder and hang diapers on the lines and wrap my baby up in those. Had a question a while back about wool diaper covers. I started using wool with my 4th baby. I only have a couple of covers, and she asked how I was liking them. I talked about them before I had the baby, that I was going to try out wool and flats, and she wanted an update. So the update is I love wool. I have not used it as much as I thought I would, but I do love it when I use it. So I use the flat diaper, and I use I think it's called the Kite Fold. I just have folded it so many times, I don't remember what it's called. The flat diaper and then a wool cover over it. I don't have to put on any pants. I can just put on a onesie or a t-shirt with him. They're so cute. I love wool covers. That's probably my favorite part of it. They're very easy to clean. I've only had to clean it maybe 6 times the whole time he's been born, and he's 7 months old, because you don't have to wash it every time unless something leaks onto it. It becomes wet. It will get a little damp from the urine, but it doesn't smell. The properties of wool keep it from smelling. That is our cloth diapering journey. I have more videos on that. I'll link below if you want to know more on cloth diapering. I've shared our cloth diaper routine. I've shared our wash routine. I've shared how we strip the diapers. I love cloth diapering, but no, we don't do it exclusively. If we are going on a long drive, I'll put a disposable on them. If we're staying somewhere overnight on a vacation, I do take the cloth diapers, but I don't hesitate on using disposable when we're on a long drive on the travel, or if we're just not somewhere where it's easy to wash diapers, if we're not at like a condo or something that has a washing machine. And at night, we've always used disposable. After my first child got a really severe ammonia burn from the diaper not being absorbent enough for nighttime wet, so we just knocked cloth diapers out completely at night. I know there are additional absorbers and paddings you can add at night, but we just haven't messed with that. We just do disposable at night. So cloth diapering is not all or nothing. You can do part cloth diapering and part disposable diapers. That is completely okay. When should I start pumping and how often? I want to have a small stash in the freezer, but I don't really know how much or when to pump, after every nursing session or a few times a day. Okay, so you don't have to pump. I know there are like all this information out there about building a freezer stash. If you're not going back to work, you don't have to pump. I do have a pumping routine video from 3 years ago, I guess now, when I was still a working mom, and I shared how I pump on the go, what I used, how I stored the milk, how I packaged it and brought it home for my child to eat when I was gone. But I have not pumped since I worked. That was my first 2 children. My next child, I did not pump, and I did not pump with this child. Now, at the very beginning, I will use the Haka or the manual pump just to get some relief of engorgement, and then I'll put that in the freezer just as like a backup. But I literally don't think I've ever had more, with the last 2 children that I did not work, more than 20 to 30 ounces in the freezer at a time. I was not one of those people that had like hundreds of ounces of milk in the freezer. And even when I was working, I did not have a huge stash. I mostly pumped enough for my child to eat when I was away. I didn't have a huge stash. So you don't have to have that. If you're worried about an emergency situation, of course, build the stash. You really don't have to pump extra. You can just pump after a nursing session and your body will learn to produce more that you're demanding from it. So if you are nursing your baby and then you pump after, you may not get a lot at first, but over time your body will realize that it needs to make more milk. You're asking your body to give you more milk. It will start producing more for the most part. Most women will be able to produce by supply and demand. So that's my advice there, but you don't have to pump. A few times a day. So just after every nursing session or after the morning one, if you didn't know, you have more milk in the morning, really in the wee hours of the night and into the morning. With my first child, I had a difficult supply. I've shared a little bit about this story, but I would wake up every hour through the night, whether he woke up or not, and pump, just because I was so paranoid about having enough milk for him when I went back to work. And then even when I went to work, I was worried about having enough milk for him to drink through the day. So I would wake up every 3 hours, and I noticed at the wee hours of the morning, between like 3 and 6 a.m., my milk was the highest. So I don't recommend you have to do that, but just know that in the morning nursing sessions usually have more milk. So I always had more milk in the morning pumping session. If I did like nurse my baby and then pump in the morning, I would get more milk that way. But you don't have to pump. It's just not necessary if you're gonna be with your baby all the time and you don't really need to go anywhere. You just take your baby with you all the time, which is what I do. What do you do with your baby when you clean? Basically, how do you get anything done with a baby who wants to be held all the time? So this was coming from a first-time mama, and I get it. First-time mamas feel like their baby wants them all the time, and they do. Babies want to be with mama. So with my first child, I remember being very torn on trying to get anything done. I would be cooking with him, holding him, because he just wanted to be held all the time. I wasn't a pro at baby wearing then. Now I baby wear like all the time to get things done. But with him, I was not as comfortable with it. I wasn't able to back wear him. I would try to front wear him, and then it just felt very cumbersome to get things done. But we just got through it. And I learned to realize with each child how much your child actually just wants to be with you. You try to sit them on the floor and play with a toy, and that might last for 5 minutes. Now with a first baby, this is different than when you have multiple children, because when you have more children, they learn to entertain themselves. My baby now is 7 months old, and since he was about 4 or 5 months old, he can be entertained by my older children. They'll just sit on a blanket and play with him, bring him toys, talk to him, play with him, just be with him, and he was happy. Now I did wear him a lot as well because he still wants his mama. But with that first baby, it is challenging. I suggest learning to baby wear. Just strap them in. If you can learn back wearing, that's even better when they're about 6 months or older. You can actually back wear a newborn in a woven wrap. I did not become an expert at that. That was a goal with this pregnancy, with this last baby. But he was very difficult to get on my back. When he was 1 and 2 months old, I did manage it, but it wasn't something I did often because it just took a long time to get him on my back. Like it took me like 10 minutes to get him wrapped up tightly on my back in the woven wrap, but I did it, and it was so nice to get things done that way when he would just sleep on my back versus on the front. I love front baby wearing, but when you're cooking and trying to move around the kitchen, it's sometimes just kind of a cumbersome thing to move around. But I love baby wearing. I highly recommend learning it. You can get a structured carry, which is what I actually do most of all now. I milk with my youngest now on my back. That's how I get a lot of things done now. If he's not playing with his siblings or I can't leave him inside while I need to go outside and do something, I just put him on the back in the structured carrier and he just rides. He loves it. So just realize that babies want to be with their mama, that you're not doing anything wrong by your baby wanting to be held all the time. You're not going to spoil your baby by holding them all the time. Give them the love and the attention and the cuddles, and then put them in the wrap and go get some things done and just go back and forth. Just know that it's such a short season, especially that first year. It goes by so fast, and then they're not going to want to be held all the time, and you're going to miss holding them all the time. So I know it can feel difficult trying to clean or cook or do anything with a baby, but there will be plenty of time for that after they are past that 1 year mark, and you're actually going to miss them wanting you all the time. Can you share how you were liking, oh, I think I mentioned this in the other one. I didn't mean to share it now. Can you share how you're liking the wool covers? I know you mentioned that you were going to try them. Okay, I already answered that. I didn't realize I wrote it on here twice. I was talking about cloth diapers and it reminded me of the wool. So that was that question about wool. I love the wool. I have not used it as much as I thought I would, but I do love it. I use the kite fold with snappies and then pull the wool over top. The only thing you have to be careful with is with snappies not to snag the wool. There is a proper care for wool. You have to wash them lay them flat to dry, squeeze them out, lay them flat to dry. But they've been super easy. I have not, there really isn't much more to learn about wool. If you're already cloth diapering, you want to add wool, I do recommend it. It has been great the times I use it. But I don't, like I said, I don't use it as much as I thought. I rely a lot back on my assembly covers just because that's what I was used to. That's what I still use the most of. How do you make your liver pate that you feed your babies? This is something I want to try, but I don't know where to get started. Where do I get liver? How do I cook it? Will my baby even like it? Okay, so liver pate, I mentioned that above when I talked about solids. To make our liver pate, we buy frozen liver from a local grass-fed beef store, or we get it in our half beef cow. I don't use venison liver. I've been asked that before, but I use beef liver for my babies. We grind our venison liver, but I don't feed that to my baby. So you make sure the liver has been frozen for 14 days to kill off anything that you may be worried of, though I'm not really that concerned about it anymore because I know that this is a safe food. I pull it out of the freezer, chop it up into small pieces, cook it in a skillet with a lot of butter and salt. Preferably raw butter if you can get access to it, if not just high quality butter, because that butter is so healthy and wonderful for your baby's brain development. Cook that down until the liver is cooked. You don't want it tough, but you want it slightly cooked. Then I will add that to my blender with a bone broth. I don't measure any of this, guys, I'm sorry. Just dump it all in there. Add maybe a cup of bone broth, just enough to help it incorporate and make it into a paste, maybe half a cup. I should probably make this and measure it. And I will put the recipe down below for how I make liver pate. I will actually go measure it and make some and put the recipe below for you guys because I don't ever measure things. Blend it in the blender, make sure it's well salted, and pour it into, you can put it in little ice cube molds and then pop them out and thaw them for your baby. I've just poured them in mason jars and pulled them out as needed. And it sounds unappetizing, but it really becomes like this paste that you can spread. I actually started eating it with my third baby on bread. I haven't ate it as much this time. It just didn't sound as good to me. But I wish this was something I liked more because it is so nutritious and it's such a good first food for babies. So as far as sourcing, we get it from a local grass-fed farmer. They sell liver for really cheap because it's not a popular meat cut these days. Most people don't want it. So you can get it pretty cheap usually. There's also some online sources for high quality grass-fed beef. You can order online, but it is a wonderful first food for baby. That and bone marrow. I've experimented a little bit with bone marrow. We don't have a lot of bone marrow access to that. We can buy soup bones at the same grass-fed beef store that we have local to us, but it's just, I was so used to the pate already, I didn't do a lot of the bone marrow, but I will leave a wonderful video on how to make bone marrow for your baby if you're interested. I know that the lady in the video bought hers at Whole Foods, her high quality bones to get the marrow out of, but the ancestral start to feeding our babies has been wonderful. We did this with our last two children, a little bit with our first two, not as much, but a little bit of like the egg yolks with our first two, but we've done the organ meats and the pate and the marrow with these last two children, and they have loved it. So I think your baby will like it. You may not like it as the mama. I will tell you, it took me a minute to actually try the pate after I started making it, but it was an acquired taste, but your baby will probably most likely love it. Just trust me there. You might think they won't, but they probably will. Do you use blackout curtains in your room for baby to sleep, sound machine, etc.? So this goes a lot with the sleep training. I took that course on sleep training and they talked about having blackout curtains and making the room pitch black, not a crack of light, not even a light from an alarm clock or a night light, have a sound machine, and I believed all of that, and it did not help my baby sleep any better that first time around. So we do have blackout curtains, but only mainly because my husband likes them. He likes to have a really dark room to take naps in or to sleep in. But our older children, as they transition out, we still, they have darker curtains, but their rooms are not pitch black. Our babies don't sleep in a pitch black room. It is dark, but it's not pitch black. There's crevices of light peeking in. We do use a sound machine, but I don't use it initially. When our babies are like under 2 or 3 months old and they just knock out and nothing wakes them up, I don't worry with the sound machine. When they get to that 4-month mark where they're more alert and maybe they're taking a nap in my room and my older children are outside the door being loud and wild and riding scooters around the house and yelling and just having the good time that kids have, then I will start using a sound machine to help block out the noise for my baby. And I make sure the sound machine is between the door and the baby to help block out that noise. But I'm not one that, with my first baby, I was adamant about that sound machine and those blackout curtains. But I find that your babies will learn to sleep in whatever environment they're put in. Our baby now will take naps in this room with the windows open just like this, the curtains open, light coming in. He'll nap on the bed. I even love to open the windows and let fresh breeze come in. He naps perfectly fine. I do use the sound machine But for as light, I think your baby will adjust to whatever sleeping environment you provide for them. It is great. We just have the curtains in here, honestly, because my husband likes them when he wants to take a Sunday afternoon nap, and he gets the room really dark and cold and cozy, and that's actually why we have the blackout curtains. But I don't think it's necessary. If you want to do it, great, it's fine. But if you don't want to, I think that's fine too. How often do you bathe your babies? I've read frequent baths can be unnecessary for new baby skin, but it's not culturally normal to skip baths, and other people in my family think it's strange when I don't bathe my baby very often. Okay, so this is funny because this is totally us. We don't give our baby their first bath until they're probably almost a month old. Honestly, I just love that fresh smell. I'm very careful about visitors and bringing in colognes and perfumes and just scents because I don't want that on my baby because I don't bathe them very quickly. I like just the fresh smell. I like to let their skin adjust to everything. It might be gross to you, but it's what we've always done. It's just normal to us. So for probably 2 to 4 weeks usually is when they get their first bath, and that's fine. I just love that smell of new babies, and not that the bath's gonna make it go away. I just don't, I know our water is not perfect these days. It's highly treated, and I wanna keep that off my baby's skin as long as possible. You can use filters and stuff. We just don't have a shower filter. It's something I really need to invest in. A bathtub filter, we just don't have one. So I just keep the water off them as much as possible. And then after that, I bathe them every 3, 4, sometimes 5 days. With this baby, I did start doing some swimming lessons. I follow this page, Teaching Your Child to Swim at an Early Age. So I did do more baths with this baby only because I was doing some swimming techniques. I'll link the course down below that I used. That's really the only reason he got baths, is I was doing a swimming lesson with him. So, but it's still only every 3 to 4 days, and sometimes it might be a week, and that's fine. My older children bathe every night because they just enjoy baths, but that's just how we do it. And my husband and I bathe because that's just normal, culturally normal. But I do believe that too many baths and too much soap and water on your skin is not good for you. My other children, we don't use soap on our children. That may be weird too, but maybe weird, but that's what we do. And this mama obviously has read some about that and learned some about that and thinks that she's the weird one. And people might look at you, or your family might be like, are you not gonna bathe your baby tonight? And that's fine. It's your choice how often you bathe your children. I mean, of course, if my children are out in the mud, dirty, filthy, they've been sweating all day, of course I'm going to get them to get a bath. But if it's winter, we actually do even less baths in the winter for our young babies because they're just not getting dirty. They're getting nothing on them. They're just hanging out all day. All right, last question. How do you adjust your older children to your new babies? I'm going to have 2 under 2, and I'm nervous about jealousy from my older child. Any tips are appreciated. Okay, so I was nervous about this too. I had my first 2 children within 18 months of each other, and I was nervous that he was going to be jealous. Everybody told me he was going to be in for a rude awakening. They told me that with each child, that the youngest baby is going to just be in it for a rude awakening. They're going to be jealous. They're going to want all the attention from mama because now mama's giving the baby attention, but I have not seen that to be true one time. Now there's an occasional, if I'm nursing the baby, the toddler wants me to get them something, and if I don't get up immediately, they have a little tantrum and they're showing their jealousy side. But for the most part, every new child we've added, that older child that was the baby of the family, has welcomed them with so much love, and it's absolutely the most beautiful thing. And I've never seen my children in for a rude awakening, and that saying actually kind of bothers me because it's like, what are they in it for an awakening for? A new life added to your family? How joyful is that? How much can we model God's love that he sent us that baby to our family to love and to raise and to take care of and to nurture and teach that to our children, even the youngest toddler. So our children's age differences are 18 months, 20 months, and 20 months. So they're very close in age. And like I said, each time we've added a new baby, that toddler has welcomed them and wanted to hold them and love them and just care for them so much. And I think it's just because we constantly we talk about the new baby coming to our family and how much we are blessed that God gave us this gift and how we are to love them and take care of them. And they're just really excited to welcome that new member to our family. So personally, I've not had much experience with having to adjust the toddler to the new baby. I think if you create that family culture of love and that children are truly a gift from God, your children, your older children will see that, and they will welcome that baby with as much love and joy and want to nurture them and take care of them just as much as you as the mama or your husband are as the father. So that's just our personal take on it. I don't really stress about that. I just let life go on. I show them that we have this new gift. I let them hold the baby as much as they want, of course with our help. So they're not thinking, oh, this baby is off limits, only mama and daddy can hold it. I let them hold the baby pretty much as often as they can, as long as baby's not like throwing up, like really upset or something. But still, now my older children want to carry our 7-month-old around all the time, and I just let them, because it lets them feel that accomplishment of taking care of a younger sibling, and that is what makes that adjustment easier for them, is letting them have some joy in welcoming the new family member. So I wouldn't stress about it. I would just let them know that this is a gift and that this is a beautiful new sibling that they get to grow up with and play with, and like their built-in best friend. And my children are so close, I think, because of that culture we built right now. I'm not saying they don't ever fight or argue or get on each other's nerves. For the most part, they truly love their siblings, and I think it's just because we haven't really given them an option not to. That's like their best friends. That's who they play with all the time. That's who they were gifted by God as a blessing. And that's just kind of how it's been. So I'm sorry I don't really have much advice there. Just let them hold the baby, of course, with your help. Let them know that new baby is a gift and that we are to care for it, nurture it, and that's kind of how we've approached it. Okay, that's the end of the questions. I hope you got some good information out of this, some advice, some encouragement, something. If you have any other questions, leave them down below. I can always do a follow-up video on this as I collect more questions for mamas, from mamas, for first-time mamas, for experienced mamas, mamas going from 1 child to 2 children or 3 children. I love talking about this topic, motherhood and mothering and God's design and all of that. So I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will talk to y'all in my next video.